Hey guys. Something I'm running into a lot, which I think like the general population is like dudes, well-meaning dudes, kind dudes, peaceful dudes, taking up a lot of space either in conversation or on public transit or in the coffee shops. Like I often run into, and this might just be my community and where I am, but I often run into like men talking very loudly at somebody else. And more than often, we see that it's probably a woman or somebody holding space for this person. And I know that it comes from like a wounded space where like maybe they don't feel seen and don't feel loved. And if somebody's holding a lot of divine feminine energy, they'll receive unconsciously like maternal attention or energy from this person in conversation. So no shade on anybody, but I don't know if it's just our spiritual community, but like my spiritual community I've experienced in Mount Shasta in Hawaii, where when we run into like cis straight men in the spiritual community, this is like times 10 this is happening. And oftentimes it's a conversation that's pretty one-sided, so it doesn't really matter what you're saying. You could like I tested this out multiple times. Like after like 10 minutes into the conversation, I will just respond with like anything, like something that might not even be quite sensical, and they continue going with their expression. And it's very valuable, and it's usually very insightful and loving and wise, but it's essentially really similar beliefs that have been like, esoteric wisdom that has been written down 100 years ago by some dude that's living in a mountain, like not helping his community or his wife live life, So I don't know how to deal with that without being like rude or expressing like firm boundaries. I try to like just graciously and lovingly exit the conversation, but you can't just be like talking to is insufferable. But I wonder like what would happen if these spaces, especially in the spiritual community, and this general dynamic, if these clearly powerful, well-intentioned like cis male dudes would be curious around like the female perspective and like the woman's lived experience. I very rarely see, just in general, like in spaces I attempt to cultivate and consciously attract to myself, I do have a different experience. But like in the general like run-of-the-mill daily community where it's like open to the general population, I very rarely see like a man intently listening to the wisdom and life experience of a female's perspective. And I just like wonder what would happen in our spiritual community, in the collective conscious, in the world, if this dynamic was a little bit more reciprocal. So yeah, bless y'all. Bye.